So Alan's a longtime Newton resident and homeowner since 1993. He's a reporter and board member for the Fig City News and also serves on the board of the Coolidge Corner Theater Foundation in Brookline. He is a managing principal at McCabe Investment Group, holds a designation of Chartered Financial Analyst, and is a graduate of Brandeis University. And we are proud to have him here today with some wonderful candidates.
Go judges.
Thanks, Chris. First, I'll introduce the three candidates. First, to my immediate right, Lisa Gordon. Lisa is a native of Newton, a graduate of Newton Public Schools, a parent of 2 Newton South High School graduates, and the executive director of the Acton Food Pantry. Her background is rooted in advocacy and will be a transparent, collaborative, and independent leader who puts residents first. Next to Lisa, Ted Gross. Ted has lived in Newton since 1961 and graduated from Newton South and Northeastern University. He helped manage his family's Cleveland Circle Deli after his father's passing and is active in Democratic politics, serving on local and state committees and as clerk of NewTV. And then finally, Sean Roche. Sean holds degrees from Yale and Cornell Law Schools. He's a former Bronx County Assistant District Attorney and has worked for over 15 years as a software product manager, mostly in healthcare IT, a Newton Center resident, and former member of the Traffic Advocacy Group. Sean is a longtime transportation, housing, and climate advocate. So in response to the 4 area councils' recent survey, residents said their top concerns are how Newton is being run and how that affects them. Concerns include municipal taxing and spending, keeping home ownership affordable, supporting schools, transparency about influence in policymaking, strengthening our commercial tax base and local businesses, protecting the environment, genuine resident participation in shaping decisions about village centers, infrastructure, public facilities, and quality of life. Of the respondents, 70% have lived in Newton over 20 years, 45% are 65 or older, and another 45% are 45 to 65 years old. Survey respondents are engaged Newton residents who will likely be voting in your election. Off to the questions. First question is for Lisa. Tell us about your past service to Newton and other aspects of your background that equip you to represent constituents. And do you believe voters elect you to represent your views or to represent their diverse views?
I'll start from the top. I feel that what residents are really looking for, and I think the past few elections have shown that, is a city councilor who will represent their points of view, who is really good at being a leader, pulling disparate views together so that we can act in concert to get the best outcomes possible. I don't believe that I'm being elected as a trustee of just what my views are, and you've elected me, and so all that matters is what I think. I've been, since I moved back to Newton in the early noughts, I've been a leader in my community, setting up local advocacy groups that worked on village centers. I worked in the Newton school system to save the jazz program, and I worked to save the strings program when they were both being under threat of being cut. I got to stop, but I've been on numerous different committees.
Thank you. Ted, what your answer to that question?
Could you?
Sure. Tell us about your past service to Newton and other aspects of your background that equipped you to represent constituents here.
Well, I've been active in the community since I graduated high school. I've got involved in the various local organizations back in the 70s where we dealt with environmental issues, and then later on I got involved in democratic politics, and as to whether my views are the residents' views, I believe that I should be listening to the voters that elected me, and the views that I push forward. Just an indication of where I'd like to go, but
Thanks.
I don't.
That's the time's up. Sean, same question?
So I've been an advocate on transportation and housing issues for over 20 years. And why I'm running is because the issues that matter to me are resolved in city council. In essence, that's where the action happens. As for representing my views or the voters, there's a great mechanism. It's called politics. And if you don't represent the voters, then they're going to kick you out.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Ted. Newton has a strong mayor form of government that greatly limits the power of the city council. Do you support changes like the city council having its own attorney, more say over hiring of department heads, and authentic participation in shaping the city budget? And then address whether those changes should be voluntary and informal or through a charter change. Ted, your answer.
Okay, well, the charter, I believe, is pretty specific that the mayor proposes and the city council disposes. But as to, we could take something away, but the council cannot add anything to the budget. And that, if enough councilors are interested in something, maybe we could talk with the mayor, but maybe there should be a slight charter change to allow input from the council if enough councilors think it's important for the city.
Thank you. Sean, your answer.
So a few things. One is, in a strong mayor form of government, it's essential that the city council and the school committee operate as a check and a balance against the mayor. And so we need to make sure that we are independent voices, and I am an independent voice and will be. As for making changes, we are constrained by state law in terms of what kinds of government we can have. And I don't know enough to answer the specifics about attorney and other questions. Certainly be something to look into.
Thanks. Lisa.
So yes, we have a strong mayor type of government in Newton. However, the mayor gets to decide how they want to exercise that. And when you have a really strong, positive leader, they want to work in collaboration. What I'm hearing from what I believe will be our future mayor is that that is his outlook. And what does that mean? It means working collaboratively with the city council. It means when you're hiring department heads that you may set up a committee of city councilors to help with that review process. That's what's done when we hire fire chiefs. That's what's done when we hire our police chiefs. So it is a choice that the mayor makes to decide how they want to use that power. And I am hopeful that the future going forward will be one where we collaborate with the school committee, where we collaborate with other city councilors, and we collaborate with the mayor. And I do think the city council should have its own attorney.
Thank you. Newton's ARPA and other federal COVID monies are spent. Federal and state aid cuts are happening. A survey conducted by the area councils indicated little support for tax increases or overrides. Do you agree? And what ideas would you bring to improve Newton's fiscal health? Sean.
So in the long term, we really have a choice between more taxes or more growth. We're facing headwinds that are outside the control of the city in terms of healthcare, in terms of cost of goods. We are generally a human being-driven organization, and those costs are going up. In the very short term, there's some things we can do with OPEB to maybe flatten out some of our obligations. In the long term, the choice is between growth and taxes, and I'm in favor of growth. And in the medium term, I don't see how we're going to avoid a tax override, and I think the folks who are involved in these races know that, and we should be honest about it.
Thank you. Lisa?
So up until we started talking about overrides, I would be in agreement with what Sean had to say. We need to look at growth. We need to look at preserving our commercial base. We have to look at the levers that are available to us and decide as a community what our priorities are. There are two types of debt exclusions, or two types of overrides. One is a debt exclusion and one is operational. Operational ones can be very divisive. They can be very hard on our senior population, and it's something to really, really be thoughtful about. And I think if we're going to ask for that, the work needs to be done to show exactly why. However, a debt exclusion tends to be a little bit more popular. They can be used for things like a new elementary school, a new police station. They tend to be less divisive in our community. So I think it's an opportunity for a discussion on how to move forward on that.
Thanks. Ted, your thoughts about tax increases, overrides, and other ideas to improve Newton's fiscal health?
Tax overrides, because a lot of people have limited budgets based on the sampling you indicated with people over 65 and even people 45 to 65. Their budgets are tight, and the 2.5 overrides are very limited on their, very tight on their budgets. And as to other things that can help with the budget, maybe have businesses come into some of the areas of the city that have vacant stores and encourage that type of thing to increase our tax base there.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to question 4. Residents are concerned about the environment and want to protect the environment and address climate change. What steps would you take to include constituents in planning and policy making about public works, open space, wildlife habitats, tree cover protection, birdo, and incentivizing renewable energy? We'll start with Lisa.
So I definitely think as a community we could do a better job of engaging more of our citizens. We have a lot of different, Green Newton, we have a person who's working on climate in City Hall, but we're not always getting the message out as well as we should to our residents about the opportunities that there are. I recently did a tour of Cold Spring Park, which was an unbelievable lesson in biodiversity and the treasures that we have in Newton, and very few people have that opportunity. So I believe it's something that we could start with the schools to bring people in. We could then reach out to residents to really engage them and not be hand-picking people. I'm also a big proponent of looking at a biodiversity plan, and I think many residents in our community have expertise in this area, and we should be bringing people together to enhance our climate action plan.
Thank you. Sean, your answer.
So people have a lot on their plates. And one of the things that we need to do is not just feed more information out to people, but deliver the information that they need. And we need to be able to have a way of doing our messaging out to the community that says, this is about your area of interest. This is about your community. I think sometimes there's a desire to just get more information out. I think Mayor Fuller has done a very good job of broadcasting what's going on. And there are certainly things that can be done on the website. And as an example, I'd have you go to seanroach.org and look at how to vote. And that's an example of how you can compact and organize information to make it more usable.
Thank you. Ted, your answer.
Could you?
Sure. Residents are concerned about the environment and want to protect and address climate change. What steps would you take to include constituents in planning and policy making about wildlife habitat, increasing open space, tree cover protection, incentivizing renewable energy, et cetera?
Some of the things that might be done is in the climate report that was I had recently read from I think it was 2023. It dealt with various aspects of it, but one of the things I saw in it was where residents are trying to switch energy from fossil fuel to other types of fuel, and maybe the city could have a buy-in effort for groups of citizens so they can get a discount and make sure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We're out of time. Thank you. We're right back at Ted. Another question for you. Newton has seen its commercial tax base shrink. Commercial tax rates, as you know, are higher than residential tax rates and generate lower costs in services. Has Newton allowed too much commercially zoned land to be converted to residential? What steps would you take, if any, to restore Newton's commercial tax base and support local businesses?
As to supporting local businesses, that would be encouraging businesses to come into, as I started to say in the previous question, that we have a lot of storefronts that are empty, and encouraging businesses to come into those stores that and provide a city department that would have them go through the process of the paperwork that they need to get their businesses up and running.
Thank you. Lisa?
I do not agree with the city when we have allowed commercial to then turn into resident. At the end of my street, there was a wonderful little shopping area. There's a great housing complex that's there. I'm not clear on why they couldn't have kept the first floor commercial and built the residential above that. I wasn't a fan of the special permit when Northland has gone back and asked if they could take the commercial that they had allocated and turn that into residential. I think that we were premature in allowing that. I think we really have to be careful when we're looking at projects about losing more commercial, and we're continuing to do that. There's a new development that's coming in again on Washington Street, and we're going to take 6 commercial, and it's going to go down to 2. So it's something we have to pay attention to. In terms of helping our businesses, we could really beef up the EDC. We have to be advocates. We have to know what people in our town want commercially. We have to be able to go out and get that. I think it's really important.
Sean, your answer to the question about the commercial tax base and commercial development.
So those are really 2 questions. Let me start with the local businesses. When Bigelow Cleaners, which was a family-owned, long-time business, had finally shuttered, the TTERD, not DDERD, the owner said, we resisted residential development in Newton Center for the longest time, and we've come to realize that what we need is feet on the streets. So we need to have more homes near our commercial areas. That's what's going to make them successful. As for giving away residential land, 2 things. One is Northland's going to generate an enormous amount of tax revenue. And number 2, there's no market for Class A real estate, and they couldn't get funding for it. So we didn't give anything away. We're just stuck in an economic cycle that is not favorable for commercial development.
Thank you.
Could I say something?
Sure.
I would just like to point out that there's a local dry cleaner right near Northland. And because the Clark's building was closed and that commercial was closed, they, as a direct result, are finding it difficult to stay open. And they have made that connection themselves. So it's a much more complicated than just saying, there wasn't development in the middle of Newton Center. It's an ecosystem, and we really need to be paying attention in Newton to that ecosystem.
Thank you. Next question. In theory, hiring consultants represents savings because Newton is not hiring more employees with associated benefits, but Newton's record is uneven, with some consultants on open-end, no-bid contracts. Consultants sometimes dictate policy by engaging in public engagement with preordained results. Money spent on consultant reports sometimes end up shelved. As a city councilor, what would you do to increase transparency and ensure consultants are cost-effective? Sean?
You need specialized expertise often. That's number one. We need to be, that's a really tough question for 45 seconds, to be honest with you. There are going to be occasions where we do not have in-house staff with the expertise. On the other hand, we've also let our in-house staff lose expertise because we're not hiring full-time staff. And so generally speaking, we have to avoid staffing that limits our areas of expertise, to avoid the associated costs and benefits, and I'll stop there.
Thank you. Ted, same question. Again, this relates to using consultants for doing city work and the associated processes around that.
The question is with having associates.
The question that the city often hires consultants in part because it's cheaper than hiring full-time staff, but that some consultants seem to dictate policy, and also sometimes work done by consultants ends up being ignored, leading to unnecessary wastes. Do you have any thoughts about the use of consultants in city policy?
Well, the consultants are good to advise either the mayor or the council as to what direction to go, but as to setting policy, I don't think the consultants should be the ones setting policy. It should be either the mayor or the council that comes up with a policy that they'd like to follow.
Thank you. Lisa?
So a couple of questions ago, Sean mentioned the city website, and I'd like to address the transparency part of your question, which is if we're going to be using consultants, it should be easily findable on the city website what consultants we're using, what RFPs have gone out, who's applied and submitted RFPs, who was chosen, what is the amount that we're paying for those consultants. This is all information that is deeply hidden. And as residents, we should be looking at that. And if the trade-off is going between hiring people and hiring consultants, if the information is easily available, it will help the community know whether these decisions are good ones or not. Additionally, we often hire, I live in Newton Center, we've had 3 or 4 parking studies done in Newton Center. And I don't believe that before these we put out to bid, that we wanted to hear what the outcomes were, because
Thank you.
people weren't listening.
Next question back to you, Lisa. What steps would you take as a city councilor to ensure home ownership and rental homes remain affordable for Newton residents? And just broadly, do you have other housing thoughts, notwithstanding a brief 45-second timing
Yes.
constraint?
Well, I think Sean was right when he said all these questions really are much more complicated. But there's a really awesome project that I've just learned about that's going on in West Newton, where an older housing unit, I think it's 112, is getting money from our Affordable Housing Trust so that we can keep the rents there at workforce rental levels. I think that's brilliant. I think as a community, we have decided, and I agree with, we are a much better community if we can have teachers living here, if we can have firefighters living here, our police. One of the best ways to do that would be to have workforce level rents. So it's a great way, since so many of the new developments are charging really high-end rents, if we could do more of these projects so that we can continue with affordable rents, I think it would be a great victory for Newton, because our long-term renters as well as our homeowners are what make us an incredible community.
Ted, same question. What steps would you take to ensure that home ownership and rental homes remain affordable, and any other thoughts about improving the housing situation in Newton?
Well, with homes that need, it's a complicated question. But homes that are torn down to make way for new housing, a lot of that is unnecessary if they were to refurbish the home, and that would keep it less expensive instead of the $3 million home. And some of those homes, environmentally, if you tear them down, the pollution of the air from older homes, by refurbishing, you're able to keep it at a less expensive home.
Thank you. Sean, same question. Housing broadly and keeping ownership affordable.
Okay, so I think we need to distinguish between keeping current stock affordable and keeping home ownership and renting affordable. Without subsidy, we're not going to keep current home ownership affordable, either government subsidy or subsidy by the current owners to the future owners. In terms of keeping home ownership as a general category and renting affordable, we need more housing options. We need more housing types that are legal in the city, and we need more of the more housing, and that's the way we're going to solve the problem. Now, getting into the details of that, we don't have that time.
Thank you. Next question is we're starting with Ted. Newton's schools face real challenges and account for over 2/3 of the budget. As a city councilor, how would you collaborate with the school committee, teachers, and parents to strengthen schools while protecting taxpayers and maintaining vital services?
With dealing with schools, I believe state law forbids the council from interfering with the running of the schools, and it would. And the mayor works with as member of the school committee, would present the budget to the city council. The council could lobby the school committee members as to what they hear from the voters, and also talk with the mayor as to different things in the budget. But as to the actual budget itself, it would depend on the school committee's choice.
Thank you. Sean?
So one of the things that was missing from your answer or your question was how do we work with the unions? And one of the things that's really distressing about this current school committee and city council races is the demonizing of the unions. We've got to work with the unions as partners. They're only 60% of the budget. There are plenty of things that are the headwinds I talked about earlier that are putting pressure on our budget. We need to be advocates in City Hall, on the City Council, for healthy, collaborative relationships between the unions and the school committee and the parents, and we're not seeing that. It's very disappointing.
Thank you. Lisa?
I think some of that work has already begun. The City Council has invited the school committee to come to a programs and services meeting, so there's a lot more communication, which I think is crucial between the City Council and the school committee. I would agree with Sean that the unions are also very important. My daughter just started her tenure as a public school teacher in Maine, and that came as a direct result, I believe, from the mentorship that she received in Newton South. And again, what I always come back to is a systems thinking, whole solution approach, which was we have to really be looking to work together as a community and make sure that everybody is listening. It is particularly divisive right now. I was on the school strategic planning this last fall, and you could see it. But I believe there are steps that can be made to bring us all together.
Thank you. Next question, starting with Sean. Many of the surveyed residents and business owners feel that City Hall, consultants, and developers drive changes to village centers and public spaces with little real input from the community. As a city councilor, how would you ensure genuine community participation before decisions are made?
Legwork. There are going to be identified, well, so I used to be I've recently changed careers, but I used to be a software product manager. And what we do is we identify stakeholders, we identify their needs, we identify the overall goals. Ideally, it's a shared goal, and we work together. Now, that requires legwork. It requires going and talking with the business owners, the landlords who are not always, having aligned interests, community members, and the folks at City Hall. It's a lot, right? One of the things is there's a lot of information. We've got to figure out how to be judicious about engaging folks so that we're not overwhelming them, and when they do want to be engaged, that we haven't tapped them out.
Lisa?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I would say that the Riverside project that's just come back has done a really great job of working with the community there about what their needs are and what they'd like to see, and that the new project that's now going to be going through, it seems that the neighborhood and the developer are both happy. And I agree with Sean that that has to do with legwork and putting in the hard work of asking questions. But then when you ask the questions, you have to be willing to listen to what the answers are and act on them. I think one of the problems we've had is that we have this community involvement. Newton Highlands would be a great example of this, where they're looking at the beautification and improvement, and they have these meetings. But what happens is residents take their time to come and give their input, and it's not listened to. The same thing happened with the Newton Center pilot on the parking lot there. People gave their input, but the plan had already been decided. So if we're going to ask residents to give of their time and their opinions, we have to figure out how to incorporate that as well.
Thank you. Ted, same question, involving residents in decisions to changes in village centers and public spaces. How would you ensure community participation before decisions are made?
Again, that you would want to have public meetings to invite the public in before. You would probably have a plan that you'd like to present to them, but you'd also want to listen to the community input at public meetings to alter the plan as the public has given their input. The plan may be the same, or it may evolve to something that the community as a whole would be willing to accept.
Thank you. Next question, we're starting with Lisa. Some residents have reported confusion and safety issues with respect to parking, traffic, bike and scooter use, and road pilots, especially people with mobility challenges. What are your thoughts there, and how would you include all constituents before changes are made?
I think the process we've just talked about would be an ongoing one, where you would also be applying resident input to any projects that go forward. 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to venture throughout Newton Center in a wheelchair to see what it was like. And I would suggest, if anyone hasn't done that on the City Council, that they embark upon that, because it was incredibly enlightening. So one of the best ways to figure out how to move forward is to put yourself in someone else's shoes. I think we've done a lot of well-meaning, great projects, but again, I go back to, are we looking at the whole of it? Are we looking at how everyone's going to use that? And I think sometimes we fall short of that, and we have to be better about planning. Washington Street is a great example. We want traffic calming. We also don't want seniors to feel overwhelmed by lots of things on the street, and we want our local businesses to be able to have their customers get in and out of their store.
Thank you. Sean?
So I think that the most obvious pilot is the Washington Street pilot, and that's actually a good pilot. It has clearly defined goals. It has been measuring success along the way. So the Washington Street pilot has reduced substantially and noticeably, or notably, incidents along Washington Street. Has created a very good shared use bike scooter path and more parking. It is also, like any other road pilot, has opportunities to be tweaked, and there are opportunities for community input into the process, and it will be tweaked. So I actually think Washington Street's a not bad example, though I do understand that there are folks who are concerned, and I'm confident that their concerns will and are being heard.
Thank you. Ted, same question for you about traffic, safety issues, road pilots in Newton.
With the safety issues in referring to the Washington Street trial, I think they also took some lessons from the Needham Street reconstruction, where they had zigzag on traffic going different directions. As they redevelop some of the areas, allowing bike paths, it's all going to be trial and error as they reconfigure some of these roads. It's good to test out some of the theories before they finish their construction of any area.
Thank you. Heading down the home stretch here, division, intolerance, anti-Semitism, racism, other forms of hate have increased nationwide and to some extent in Newton. How would you promote respect, inclusion, and open dialogue as city councilor? Ted.
As to anti-Semitism and
Other types of intolerance.
other types of intolerance, it's going to be. I've practiced this regularly. That I recognize people for how they act, and what they actually do. It's something that we need to recognize people and know that we have differences that we can all live with.
Thank you. Lisa, same question.
Yeah, hate has no place in Newton, and we need to say that as a unified, strong voice, that if you are Jewish, you have a place here. If you're Islamic, you have a place here. Whatever background you come from, you have a place here. And wherever we see that not being supported or we see hate speech, it needs to be called out and addressed. And all of our city councilors have a responsibility to do that. One of the best ways, though, that we can combat differences in people is by putting multiple voices and different types of people on our committees. We need to ensure that we have young people, that we have people from all different backgrounds who are all participating in our local democracy. That will do a lot to cut across the kind of hate and some of the mistakes that our community has made recently.
Thank you. Sean.
Let me make this one very concrete. We have a city council candidate who made some comments recently about trans kids. And the parents of trans kids made it very clear that those comments were very disturbing and made those kids feel not safe in our schools. I came on social media, because I'm a social media guy, and made it very clear that those were unacceptable comments. Not a single one of the people who has endorsed him has withdrawn that endorsement or criticized him for those comments. And the people who have been campaigning with him have not criticized him nor withdrawn their support of him. If we are going to be role models, then we need to be role models.
Thank you. Last question I have for today. Some Newton residents say that large real estate firms, high-priced developers wield outsized influence from policies that raise prices. Do you agree? And as city councilor, how would you ensure transparency on special permits and land use and zoning? Sean, your turn.
So we get the development we want. We write the rules and we get the development we want. I happen to live in a home that was built by a developer who wanted to make a profit. I imagine about 99% of the folks who live in Newton do. The developers create homes that add to our stock and reduce the upward price increases. They create affordable homes. Northland is creating 170 plus deed-restricted affordable homes. So developers need to be our allies and our partners. And if we don't like the housing we're getting, we need to change our rules so that the developers know what to build.
Ted, same question. Your thoughts about developers and their impact on the city and working with them?
Well, when developers come in with large developments and they want to build projects with the zoning permits that the city council can, have some input as to what direction they should go. Also, with they can request that they have some low and moderate income housing built into their projects, and any other things that are necessary. Also,
Thank you. Lisa.
So we've recently made changes in Newton. I think people know about the MBTA and VCOD. What that has done is allowed people to come in and develop in areas that we have said this is where we'd like to do development. We've been proactive about that. We approved 8,800 units, although the state only required us to approve the building of potential building. Those aren't being builded yet, of 8,330. And in those zones, you don't need a special permit, so you can do things by right. So we have put out there where we would like to see development. We have opened that up for people to come in. Where we haven't, then I think Riverside I will go back to. I will also point out the Dudley Road development that's happening over by Route 9, where the developers are working with the community to come up with better and good projects. Last thing I'll say, though, is I agree with Sean that we can be proactive about what it is that we are looking for as a community and not leave it up to guesswork. And we could definitely do a better job on that.
Thank you. I'd like to, Sean, if you have a
Yeah,
rebuttal.
I expect that the Dudley Road project will come before the next term city council. I doubt it'll get done this year. The Dudley Road project will involve the cutting down thousands of trees without that many units being added to our housing. I'm not sure that's the best example.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of you for taking time out of a lovely Saturday afternoon here. Wish you all good luck and thank you for participating.
Thank you, Alan, Sean, and Ted.